Welcome back. Hopefully, you're doing well and absorbing all this information and not feeling overwhelmed yet. So, we've already gone over basically a general overview of the program, and now let's get down into a little bit more detail as we move through the program. This is Module 2, Video 1, and we're going to go over weight management guidelines, which are pretty much the rules of this way of eating kind of game, as you will. So, the dietary guidelines entail a number of rules that if you follow, you will do well, you'll remain in ketosis, and you'll be burning fat for fuel without hunger and cravings. Now, unlike traditional calorie counting diets, such as Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem, and many, many others, this program focuses on the makeup of those calories instead of calories alone, which is far more important than the calories themselves. You'll understand more why that is as we move through the program. So here are just a few of the rules, and we'll go over each of them individually, and you've heard some of them in the overview already, but we're going to go into them in more detail. Rule number 1, eat a protein-based snack or meal, doesn't have to be large, just a small amount, within the first hour of awakening and every 3 to 4 hours while you're awake, and even before bedtime. So if you've spread your protein allotment out so that you have some left at the end of the day, please eat that amount so that you don't skimp on any of the proteins. You don't, again, want to go longer than 4 hours during waking hours without eating something. And I would say to shoot for a minimum of 10 to 15 grams of protein at a time, certainly not less than 10. Which is a good amount. And again, as a reminder, you don't want to go over 35 at any one time because the body may turn that to sugar. So rule number 1. Rule number 2, again, we touched on this in rule 1, but you want to divide your daily allotment of protein fairly equally throughout the day so that your body can absorb it and so that you will remain satiated and have an ongoing level fuel source throughout the day. So, for example, again, if your daily protein amount is 120 grams, divide that at least into 3 meals or 3 meals and 2 snacks, or around 24 grams per session of eating if you're dividing that by 5, 3 meals and 2 snacks. Does that make sense? Hopefully that does. Again, you don't want to exceed around 35 grams of protein in any one sitting, because the body might not be able to absorb it, and it may just turn that extra protein into sugar, which ultimately will make your glucose go up, your insulin level go up, and remember, always, always, insulin overproduction always equals fat storage. We want to avoid that. Rule number 3, keep your carbohydrates under 30 grams total net carbs for the entire day to get into and stay in nutritional ketosis, which will allow you fat burning, also will allow you not to be hungry or craving. So divide your carbs fairly evenly throughout the day as well as the protein, and you'll do much better. So in general, you don't want any more than 10 net carbs. Now that's net carbs, which is total carbs minus fiber and minus half of any sugar alcohols, which we'll go over again. But basically, no more than 10 net carbs or 15 total carbohydrates without subtracting the net or the dietary fiber at any one sitting. The reason that we do this again is to avoid at all costs having your glucose go up and having insulin be overproduced, which results in fat storage. Or not only fat storage, but when insulin is at a high level, it not only stores fat but locks it down so it cannot be burned. So we really have to avoid that, or you will not lose weight. Rule number 4, you want to always pair protein with any carbohydrates you eat so that the rise in blood sugar associated with the carbs will be blunted. So protein is absorbed slower than carbohydrates, and if you eat them at the same time, that will carry over to the carbohydrates, and any carbohydrates that you are eating, the rise in glucose will be blunted because of that. So you may hear this if you're doing any research online, but The saying is never eat a naked carbohydrate. You don't want to do that. Always add at least a little bit of protein with it. Rule number 5, you want to eat every one of those suggested proteins, your daily allotment, so that you can avoid muscle wasting and stalling of weight loss. Remember, as we've gone over in the general overview, anyone who's losing weight on any method will lose some muscle. We want to have the net result be no muscle loss by adding protein into your diet, the building blocks for muscle, so that any muscle that's wasted will be replaced, so that the net result will be you will not lose muscle mass. Again, muscle mass is the cause of yo-yo dieting, which really is a bummer if you're trying to lose weight, because that will mean that you're going to have to eat even less to lose weight. So we really have to avoid that. Rule number 5. Now, rule number 6, while you keep your carbohydrates less than 30 grams a day, you've got to remember it's not necessary to reach 30 grams a day. 30 is the upper limit. If you can tolerate 10 grams a day or 15 grams a day, you will lose weight more efficiently, and you will really not have any hunger at all. You'll probably have to almost force yourself to eat. So the less carbohydrates per day, the better your weight loss, always. Rule number 7, if you feel hungry at any given point and it's not really time for you to eat, then what I would suggest is first grab 8 ounces of water or some other low carb or zero carb beverage and drink that down. If you're still hungry after that, then have a small protein and fat-based snack, but be sure to count it so that you don't exceed your allotment for the day. A nice small amount of protein and a small amount of calories even of a snack, if you're in that situation, is just have a piece of cheese or a boiled egg. That's a really nice snack, and it sounds like it's a very little amount of food, but you really will get a lot of mileage out of that. They both have a small amount of fat in them as well, which will help you to not be hungry. Rule number 8, you need to have enough dietary fat to feel satiated, meaning not hungry, but not overly full. Again, you want to savor the fat for the flavor, but not smother your food. On the other hand, you don't want to skimp on the fat. So remember, the low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet is what got us into trouble and gained weight in the first place. So really have to add some dietary fat. The only reason that we're limiting fat at this point at all is so that you will burn some of your own fat stores and not have all of your fuel needs from your diet. So you want to have somewhere between a teaspoon or up to a tablespoon if you need it of healthy fat at least 3 times a day with your regular meals. If you want to divide that up further so that you have some fat with your snacks, that's perfectly fine. But you really cannot keep carbohydrates and fat simultaneously extremely low, or you will be hungry. You'll have this low-level niggling hunger even in ketosis. So you need some fat. Rule number 9, you will be counting carbohydrate grams and protein grams only. Forget the calories. Don't pay great attention to the fat. Just count carbs and protein. And the caveat to that is you need to track these numbers and measure your portions. Otherwise, if you're not measuring your portions, you can't possibly know the correct amount of proteins or carbs. So do measure and be precise, and keep those numbers in either a small notebook that you keep with you, your MyFitnessPal app, Lose It app, whatever app you choose. Be consistent. Rule number 10, you want to add the equivalent of a half to 1 teaspoon of table salt per day to your food to avoid the symptoms of low sodium. And we went over that in detail in the general overview. But again, remember, this diet, as long as you are in a fat-burning state, you will lose fluids and electrolytes constantly. So you have to replace them, especially sodium, or you will become quite ill. Rule number 11, drink at least 64 to 96 ounces of fluid per day. At least half of that should be water. And you will be thirsty, so that shouldn't be that much of a challenge for you. Rule number 12. This is a challenge for a lot of people. You really need to aim for 7 to 8 hours of sleep per day and try to keep your sleep times regular. Now, why is that? Well, if we have poor sleep, poor quality sleep, or too little sleep, the body produces cortisol, which is the body's own steroids. Now, we've heard a lot over the years about steroids and their many side effects. Well, our body produces steroids as well. So if you're not getting adequate sleep, the cortisol level will go up, which means your glucose will go up during your sleep when it's supposed to be the lowest of the day, and that will prompt insulin production. And again, insulin production, when it's overproduced, will equal fat storage, and fat will be locked down and not be able to use. So getting poor sleep chronically dramatically affects your ability to lose weight and your ability to keep it off. So it may sound overly simplified, but you really need to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep per day. Now, if you find that you're snoring, your sleep quality is very poor, you awaken a number of times during the night, you probably need to see a sleep specialist to have your sleep evaluated to see if you have sleep apnea or some other sleep disorder that's preventing you from sleeping. But a lot of us, in American society anyway, and other cultures who adopted our way of thinking, essentially don't get enough sleep intentionally. We're on our computers, on our smartphones, playing games, we're looking at TV, we're doing something that keeps us from falling asleep. So really create a scenario where you can fall asleep and allow yourself to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day. Rule number 13, make time for exercise daily. Now, does that need to be an hour a day? Certainly not. But everyone can carve out 10 minutes a day for resistance training. Anyone can do that. You can do it in the evening while you're even looking at your email or whatever, whatever resistance exercises you want to do. You could put on some mindless Netflix to entertain yourself while you do, which is what I do. But basically you want to have your resistance exercise, whether it's pulleys, weights, free weights, Pilates, stretchy bands, whatever you use, you want that to be difficult enough that you can only do 8 to 12 repetitions. And you want to do 3 different sets of that. And you can work on your arms one day, your stomach one day, your back one day, your legs one day. You don't have to go through an entire circuit, meaning, getting every muscle in your body. You don't need to do that. So carve out 10 minutes a day for this. If you are not somebody that wants to do resistance exercise and you don't really particularly care for walking or don't feel that you have time to do anything else, then get a pedometer. They're very inexpensive, and have your goal be to get 10,000 steps per day if you're not doing any of the resistance exercises. That will keep you moving, and you will feel better if you do. Some strategies to build in getting steps pretty easily is park at the back end of the parking lot. Take a flight or 2 of stairs instead of taking the elevator. Create a scenario where you have to walk. If you need to go to the grocery store and you're only getting 1 bag and it's 3 blocks away, don't drive, just walk. You can really build in exercise intentionally without taking a big chunk of time if you use these strategies. Rule number 14, be sure and add fiber daily to your diet to avoid constipation. This diet, again, is drying. You're going to be a little on the dehydrated side if you don't drink all the fluids that you need. And you're not eating fruit and grains that can make people go to the, have a bowel movement, go to the restroom. So you really have to add fiber to your diet in order to not be plagued with constipation. And the guidebook does go over that, but basically it's all the fiber suggestions that we give you are all net carbs of 0. So they really don't contribute to your carbohydrate amount. Rule number 15, do take the recommended supplements that are in your guidebook with the doses, but basically you will have optimal weight loss and you will be replacing any vitamins that you're not normally getting from the diet you have been eating, and Actually, the low carb way of eating is generally healthier than the diet you may have been eating before. But since you're not eating fruit, and if you're not going to eat very many vegetables on this diet, if you choose to, you really need to replace some of those vitamins that you're not getting. So what we suggest is taking a multivitamin a day, a B complex, which is uh, basically a combination of all the B vitamins in a rather fixed amount. So any B complex would do. Some type of omega-3 oil, which could be fish oil or flaxseed oil. Magnesium supplement can be combined with calcium or not. You can find it at times or magnesium by itself. So you want to aim for a 400 to 500 milligram range per day. This can also help with avoidance of muscle cramps, which can happen if you're not maintaining your salt levels appropriately or not being hydrated enough. The kind of cramps that you get if they occur on this way of eating are really evil cramps that really grab hold and do not let go. They're commonly called a Charlie horse. I don't know where that name came from, but basically it is extremely painful. So you want to avoid those, and if you take some magnesium daily, you're very unlikely to have them occur. Rule number 16, you want to follow up with your weight loss specialist or other support person if you're not working with us. If you have a friend or a family member or someone that you can touch bases with to keep you on track with your weight loss. While you indeed might be able to do this on your own, most people really need some moral support, whether it's with us or other like-minded friends or family or some other nutritional support. Stay connected with people and you'll do much better. It's a rare person that can do this on their own. All right, congratulations. We've just made it through the basic rules, and we'll move on to the next video to learn exactly how we should be counting carbs. I know everyone is likely thinking, okay, here's all this general information. Well, what do I specifically do? Well, in the next video, we're going to get down to that. So take a break, relax. Don't speed through these. I'm going to remind you with every video, but let yourself absorb what you've just learned and do a little bit at a time, and you'll do much better and not have so many questions or feel so overwhelmed as you change your diet. All right, we'll see you in the next video.